2 decades, you've turned to Illegal Curve Hockey as your destination for the latest news, audio, and analysis regarding the Winnipeg Jets, Manitoba Moose, and all things hockey in Manitoba. Join Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, and Ezra Ginsburg as a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good afternoon, Winnipeg. Good afternoon, Manitoba, and all those joining us live here at Cityplace. Good afternoon, and welcome to a special edition of Illegal Curve Hockey. I'm Dave Manouk. He's Ezzy Ginsburg. We're waiting on Drew Mandel to show up eventually for this 12 noon start time, but Drew will be here. He had other responsibilities, and that's unfortunate, Ezzy, because it's not like it wasn't a newsy day here in Winnipeg when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets. We thought, with respect to today's show, setting things up for the Jets and Hurricanes tonight, the first time in 10 years, after 10 years, Nikolaj Ehlers would be playing against the Winnipeg Jets because he, of course, signed with the Hurricanes in early July. We thought that would be a newsworthy topic. Well, okay, that's what it is, and we will talk about it. What else is? Well, Adam Lowry, the captain, he signed a 5-year contract extension to be a Jet for life. Okay, that's newsworthy. Well, we have to put that on the list of things to talk about. Oh, wait, Jets prospect Brad Lambert reportedly is looking for a trade out of Winnipeg because he's looking for more opportunity. Okay, well, we're going to put that on the list. That's also something worth talking about. So now you've got 3 things on the list. You're like, well, that's going to fill up our hour here at Cityplace. We're not going to have any other room to talk about anything. I can't even talk about the Moose who have won 5 straight games, including last night, even though it's relevant to our conversation because the big news of the day that trumps pretty much all 3 of those things I just mentioned, Ezzy, is the unfortunate news with respect to Connor Hellebuyck, something we had a bit of an inkling on already. And so Connor Hellebuyck, if you haven't heard the news, he is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a, let me just make sure, minor arthroscopic knee situation, if you will. So that is what he is dealing with. It is a shutting him down for a minor arthroscopic knee procedure. So that is an expected 4 to 6 weeks, according to Darren Dreger. Head coach Scott Arniel just mentioned it. All the players talked about it. The team is having to make adjustments. And Thomas Milic, who got the win for the Moose yesterday, the BC product, the 3rd-year pro, is going to be making his, well, he'll be making his backup debut to Eric Comrie tonight, but he will be the number 2 in the Winnipeg Jets organization. So let's start it off with Connor Hellebuyck, but there's a lot to talk about in the next hour here at this special edition of Illegal Curve at Cityplace.
Dave, I don't think an hour is going to be enough today for all the stuff that we have to talk about. And you just mentioned Thomas Milic, and he's not going to obviously start tonight. It's going to be Eric Comrie in net versus the Hurricanes. But next weekend on the road, the Jets have a back-to-back against Carolina and Buffalo. So it's not going to be very long before we see Thomas Milic starting in net. Yes, sure, Eric Comrie could start back-to-back, but I mean, common conventional thinking would be that Milic is going to make his NHL debut in one of those games, probably the second game, which I think is against Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken, because I think Carolina is on the Friday and then Buffalo is on the Saturday, right? So much to talk about. Obviously,
Drew's a little late, but he's here.
Drew is stepping in right now, and we'll get Drew in here. He's got to set up a little bit, but yeah, obviously you mentioned the word unfortunate, Dave, and we should also mention that Darren Dreger in his tweet, he had a follow-up tweet, and he mentioned that this is something that Connor Hellebuyck has been dealing with for some time now. So this isn't something that happened in the last game he played, right? No. So we should get that in there. The last game would have been the Calgary game, right? Because obviously Comrie played against Columbus, right? So it's not like Hellebuyck injured himself in that game. This is something he's been dealing with. A lot of people also were curious about the term minor. Well, we know, and I've gone through it myself, not to compare myself to Connor Hellebuyck, obviously, because he's the best goalie in the world, where I'm just a couch potato, but he might
be a literal potato.
If we're talking major knee surgery, Dave, we're probably talking 3 to 4 months, maybe even longer, right? So this is 4 to 6 weeks. And as Drew continues to get ready here, Drew, welcome to the show. He's going to pop on in a second here. I did a little math, Dave. If Connor Hellebuyck is only out for 4 weeks, which would be the minimum, right? Because Dregs reported it's 4 to 6 weeks. That would be 16 games, right? Because obviously the Jets' schedule in December is very condensed, because we know the Olympics coming up in February, there's going to be break, everything like that. So it looks like it's going to be a minimum of 16 games without the Jets. So it's going to be the Comrie and Milic show until then, right?
Absolutely. So Drew, we'll bring you in, but
thank you.
We kind of started the show talking about how it would have been newsworthy enough just to talk about Lowry, just to talk about Ehlers, just to talk about Lambert.
Yeah.
And now we, of course, have the biggest nugget of the day, and probably something that's rocking the hockey world in the sense that there is the reigning NHL MVP, the back-to-back Vezina winner, is not going to be with the Winnipeg Jets. Head coach Scott Arniel talked about it. I haven't even had a chance to upload it because we literally finished, and then I ran over here from the Matt Frost Media Center. But it is a reality this team is going to have to deal with. Josh Morrissey talked about it. They have full confidence in Eric Comrie. Eric Comrie has been very good for this Winnipeg Jets team.
4-1.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a completely different team as a result. I mean, it's a completely different. I mean, I think what you're going to see through the first however many games the Jets have played now, 15, 16 games of the season. 19. Sorry, I'm a little bit confused.
Apologies. You skipped a couple games.
I know. Apologies.
You just yada over 4 games.
It's been a bit of a rush this morning, but I'm here, so I appreciate your.
You look good.
Patience.
I like the sweater you're wearing. It looks very comfortable, soft.
It is soft. It's a nice, cozy sweater. It's sweater season, so I'm enjoying sweater season.
Sweater weather,
if you will.
Guys, well, there's too much information for us to be diverting.
Exactly. But the Jets. What I'm really curious to see is the Jets' defensive structure has not been as solid this year as it has been over the last couple of years.
But better of late.
Better of late. You get the whole roster back. Now, of course, that's going to result in positive steps with regard to your defensive attention to detail. Drink if you're playing a drinking game this early in the afternoon. But now it's even doubly that important because Eric Comrie, with all due respect, and he would be the first to admit it, is not Connor Hellebuyck. He's not going to be able to bail the Jets out to the same extent that Connor Hellebuyck has bailed the team out over all, the entirety of his tenure here in Winnipeg. So now you have Eric Comrie being thrust into that role. The Jets have never really been without Connor Hellebuyck. Has he ever missed any significant period of time at all?
It's funny you mentioned that because producer Tim and I were talking about that before we went live. And if Hellebuck's been injured, Drew, it's been
a
very,
game.
Yeah, it's been
2
very
games.
minor. Like the most he's ever had is like a day-to-day injury, which was probably like a lower body injury or something like that. But yeah, to this point in his career, Connor Hellebuyck has never had any type of injury or I guess surgery like he's experiencing. And he hasn't had the surgery yet, by the way, right? Yeah, so we should mention that the surgery hasn't happened yet.
Well, you know what I'm curious about it, the timing of it all. Like, in that this has been something that he's been dealing with. That's what Dreger said in the tweet, announcing that this isn't something that sort of, by the sounds of it, it's not something that's just come about. It's not something that's new. So I wonder organizationally if they haven't sort of been waiting for them to get to full health with their skaters, if they haven't been waiting for them to get to full health.
It's a good point.
With their forward group and their defensive group, that they're like, okay, we're at full health. We can get back to the suffocating structure, or hopefully their intention is to get back to the suffocating structure that they've known so well and that they've employed so well for the last number of years. Now might be the time to do this. If there's going to be any time, if it needs to be done, clearly it needs to be done. They think he can't continue to play with it. Now is the time to do it because, at least for tonight's game against the Carolina Hurricanes, and who knows what's right around the corner with regard to the injury bug, they are at that health that maybe allows them a little bit of more, not freedom, but just a tiny bit more comfort to be able to make this decision at this exact point in time.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that we were curious about kind of a timeline here. And one of the things that Scott Arniel was asked about today was that idea. He basically made it sound like it flared up a little bit this week. And remember, he didn't practice on Monday. We saw Michael Hutchinson, his old goalie partner on Monday. And so you look at that and you think to yourself, and people were speculating. And I said, well, really, it's nothing significant other than it's different that it's usually Jason Kasdorf, the 2011 draft pick of the Winnipeg Jets.
6th rounder, no big deal.
6th rounder from Manitoba. And so you thought, okay, he's usually the guy who steps in when Connor Hellebuyck doesn't practice, but it's not irregular for Connor Hellebuyck to skip practice. That's part of his routine. And then he was part of the game day skate on Tuesday with the Jets. Of course, Eric Comrie got the start.
Right.
And then he practiced on Wednesday. So really, I wasn't thinking anything was significant. And to be honest with you, like my spidey senses started to go off yesterday. And I'll be honest with the folks who are listening and what's going on. Because someone had messaged me something about potentially there being something up with Hellebuyck. And I thought, okay, but you never know. You don't know the veracity.
Are you the insider's insider?
I'm not going to say that I'm the insider's insider, but you never know.
You're so inside, you're outside again.
Exactly. I put myself back outside by being inside. But my point is, so you think about it, you take the information like anything, and you don't do anything with it because it's speculative at best. And that's why I said, okay, that's fine. And then when we were at doing the Moose post-game media availability. Again, irregularity that while we talked to Thomas Milic, of course, he picked up the 28-save win in the 2-1 victory for the Manitoba Moose, their 5th straight win in a row. I don't know if I've mentioned that.
Focus, Manu. Focus.
I'm tight here. But the point is that, so we spoke to Thomas Milic, spoke to Danny Gilkin, so we spoke to the pros, and then right after that, we generally speak to a coach. So Mark Morrison was the head coach, was expected to come out, and he kind of came out. He said, "Oh, have you guys already talked to Millie?" And we're like, yeah, we've already done that. It's like, okay. And then Mark and Drew McIntyre, the Moose goalie coach, went off with Thomas Milic into one of the side rooms, and Milic came out with a big smile on his face. To me, that was significant. Again, I wouldn't have thought much. It was irregular.
Well, you would have maybe thought, "Hey, great job."
No, it's irregular.
I know it's irregular, but I mean, your immediate thought isn't necessary. Or you're saying because of the dominoes, because of the first message you received.
Yes, because of the first message I received, it triggered in my head something saying, okay, well, that's a little different. I'm not, again, because of that information, I'm like, okay, you file it away, you put it away.
Right.
Then I observe with my own eyes what I observed watching the game and the situation with Mark Morrison and Thomas Milic. And then I start to put the dominoes together. And then, of course, I'm needling everybody I know for a bit of info. And nobody's really saying anything. And they're
responding with, "How did you get this number?"
No, I was doing it live and in person while there. But ultimately, they weren't giving me anything. But that doesn't matter. The point I'm making is that I was already kind of like the spidey sense was tingling. And then, interestingly enough, the person who kind of messaged me said they weren't sure about whether the veracity. Again, which is why you don't go with speculative stuff in general. But I just was like, okay. And then checking the NHL media site this morning at 10 o'clock, sure enough, I see Thomas Milic is on the NHL media site on the roster for the Winnipeg Jets. Okay, well, I'm like, okay, so now we've got 2 + 2. That equals 4, Ezzy. And so you've got yourself Thomas Milic as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. Nothing about Connor Hellebuyck on IR. And then I put that out on Twitter. I just said, that's, interesting news that Milic is now listed on the roster. And sure enough, maybe seconds later, Darren Dreger tweeted out what he tweeted out, and that's where we go from here. So that was just my little inkling that something was up with Milic last night.
And Dave, having said all that, Drew, we'll go back to you in a second here.
Yeah,
but having said all that, back to Drew's point, this came out of nowhere. And this is just unfamiliar territory in the Hellebuyck era, right? Like, we're just always assuming Hellebuyck is going to get the lion's share of starts. Right.
So he'll be under 60 starts this year.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine.
Drew, morbidly, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, guys, rip up and throw out our over-under predictions from the beginning of the year.
Well, let me ask you guys this. 4 to 6 weeks, let's assume, because, there's no reason to not think that everything will be fine. It'll be a successful procedure. He'll be back up to speed, let's say beginning of January, start of 2026. How does this impact the Olympics?
It's funny that you just mentioned that, Drew, because my mind went there. As soon as I saw that, that's where my mind went. Because obviously, you just mentioned if it takes 6 weeks, then you're talking about first week of January, right? The Olympics are the I think it starts the second week of February.
About that, mistaken, yes, right? Exactly.
So he should be good, but that's also.
Does he go? Does he go? I mean, and that's a decision that, obviously is to be determined. Mm-hmm. But I wonder,
I think it depends how his rehab goes.
Well, of course, no question about it. Depends on his health. I guess it depends on how he's feeling.
Presumably, what you're suggesting is, does he go if he feels 100%?
Right.
If he's at 100%,
does he
in February, do you send him?
Right.
Now,
there's precedent there's precedent of players, not going because of injury concerns, because they all say that, what Connor Hellebuyck said really for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, his number one goal is to do what?
To win a Stanley Cup. No, I think it's a valid question. And I thought about it as well. Scott O'Neill was asked about that today with respect to, was the decision to have the surgery and to do the procedure, to do that this week, was that done in anticipation of trying to have everything ready to go, to have all his ducks in a row, so the Olympics could be still a possibility, as opposed to waiting a little bit, seeing him play it through? But it just sounds like, getting back to kind of what your original question to me was, is it sounds like it just started to flare up and bother him this week. And that Scott said something to the effect of, I'm not quoting him direct, but essentially that he was in some pain and discomfort, and you wanted to take care of that sooner rather than later, rather than allow it to continue to flare up and be something that bothers him and hampers him and limits him. So it just sounds like they're just doing this to get ahead of it. But it doesn't sound like, again, from the way he made it sound, Ezzy, doesn't sound like it was an issue in the summer. It just sounds like it was something. And we asked, remember that odd sort of practice during training camp?
When you have to go get the rib put back in place.
Well, I don't know if it was, I don't remember if that was that during training camp?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that when he was on the ice and he left.
Yeah.
Again, oh yeah.
And remember he went to, and then everyone's like, what's up? And then
yeah,
2 days
he said,
later,
I had my rib popped in. Yeah.
The chiropractor to solve the problem.
Yeah, he was asked about that. And like Scott O'Neill was asked about that. And he said that had nothing to do with this. Obviously, I mean, you know, your knee bone is connected to your rib bone, but I mean, in some bizarre capacity, I would imagine. But ultimately, it wasn't, those two things were not related. It just sounds like it was something that over the course of the season, as he started to bother him, and they dealt with it accordingly.
And this is a great opportunity for not only Thomas Milic to come in and play some games, because we talked about it right as you came in, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
There's a back-to-back next weekend on the road, Carolina, Buffalo, right? So you got to assume Milic gets his first NHL
Carolina,
start.
Nashville.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry.
Carolina.
I knew it was Carolina.
It's
Buffalo, I
right
think, is the game after.
Right after the U.S. Thanksgiving. So they play next Wednesday. They play in Washington next Wednesday. So the eve of U.S. Thanksgiving. Then they play Black Friday in Carolina at 4:00, and then they head to Nashville on the Saturday at 6:00. So that's Thomas Milic is going to get one of those games.
Oh, he's making his NHL debut.
There's no question.
It's not like I said to Dave. It's not unheard of for a goalie to get a couple starts, and Comrie would have done that in the American Hockey League. But just common sense tells you that Milic is going to get one of those games, and I think there's only one back-to-back.
There's two other back-to-back. So there's a back-to-back on a Friday, Saturday. I just looked it up. I think there's if the 4 to 6 week time frame is sort of what you consider to be, is valid, and there's no reason to think not. I believe there's 3 back-to-backs. There's a Buffalo Edmonton back-to-back, home to Buffalo on a Friday night.
Yeah, it's a weird back-to-back.
Yeah, at Edmonton on a Saturday night, and then in January there's a 3 and 4 night situation right around the 4 to 6 week time period where 2 home games. Thursday at home to the Oilers, Friday at home to the Kings, the 8th and 9th of January. So, I mean...
So Milic is going to play. Comrie's not going to play every game. He's going to play the majority of the games.
Right.
But Milic is going to get in there, and this is a great opportunity. Obviously, Comrie knows that it's just a matter of time. Hellebuyck's going to go get his surgery. He's going to come back. It's not like... we're talking about
surgery to be clear.
Arthroscopic.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a situation where, Comrie plays so well that when Hellebuyck comes back, but it's just an opportunity for Comrie to be a number 1 NHL goaltender, something he's never been done before. So, and I'm sure he wants to play as well as he can, just as the team does, as Hellebuyck recovers from his knee surgery, right? But it's an interesting situation. Like we said before, in the Hellebuyck area, we've just never seen this before. Well, you just always expect 37 to be starting the majority of these games, and it's just not going to happen here for the rest of November and December.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm particularly we know what Eric Comrie is as a goalie. We've seen the goods, we've seen the bads. I mean, there's been a lot of good. There's been a lot of good lately, so that's certainly something that gives a good degree of confidence. I'm really curious to see how the team plays in front of him, because they love Eric Comrie. Remember, like Eric Comrie is absolutely one of the most beloved members of this team. He's Mr. Personality. We talk about how good of a tandem him and Hellebuyck make just as a duo, not necessarily on the ice, but what they do for one another mentally off the ice. I'm really curious, and starts not against an easy opponent tonight, by the way, against the Carolina Hurricanes, but I'm really curious to see how the players in front, the 6 defensemen, the 12 forwards, how they sort of bear down. I go back, speaking of the Carolina Hurricanes, I go back to the game against Toronto where they put the Zamboni driver, David Ayers, in net. Remember that one?
Yeah, of course.
A couple of years ago. And anytime, any opportunity we can to make fun of the Leafs for, failing to score against a Zamboni driver is a worthwhile opportunity here on the show. But remember how tough.
Timmy was a Zamboni driver.
That's true. And if Timmy
was
in that.
besmirch Zamboni drivers.
I'm not besmirching Zamboni drivers. I'm besmirching
the Leafs.
The Leafs, exactly. But remember how hard they played in front of him, and how it happened to the Jets. Remember where the Jets
Scott Foster,
the accountant in Chicago. That was how hard the players played in front of him. Now, different scenarios, of course. Eric Comrie is an NHL caliber backup goaltender, so it's not like he's some being plucked off the street and thrust into an NHL net. But I want to see that bearing down the players and how much harder they are to play against, because they haven't been that this year.
Yeah.
The center of the ice, the middle of the ice, which for the last 2 years, 3 years, has been a no-go zone for opponents, has been more of a, okay, yeah, you can cautiously, get into this area, and we're not going to necessarily make it as difficult as we had been. That's what I want to see from the Winnipeg Jets. I want to see how their focus sort of shifts as a result of this really stunning news on this game day edition, special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, live on location. We are at Cityplace, second floor food court, talking about the Jets and the Hurricanes, but more so the news that Connor Hellebuyck is going to be out of the Winnipeg Jets lineup for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
We've barely talked about number 27, boys. Like this is the big Nikolaj Ehlers return, and we're 25 minutes in, and we've barely scratched the surface talking about Nick.
Well, I'm pretty sure Nikolaj Ehlers is readily acknowledges, no, Hellebuyck's news is way more important than my return to the city I've been in for so many years.
But it is funny, though, as he's not wrong. Like I said, we did our media availability with Scott Arneal, and I think I asked the question about Ehlers, and I was probably the 7th or 8th or 9th question because there was so much stuff to discuss. So it's not surprising. The one thing I will also mention, though, is Thomas Milic has been fantastic for the Manitoba Moose this year. 5-2, 2-1, a .214 save percentage, what is it?
I was about to say 214 isn't that good, Dave.
921 save percentage.
Actually, that would be historically one of the worst save percentages in the history of the AHL.
And a 214 goals against average. So he has been very good for Manitoba, especially on this 5-win run. I believe he has 4 of the 5 wins. So Dominic DiVincentis will get the other Jets draft pick, or prospect, I should say. He'll get the majority. I would imagine the Winnipegger, Isaac Polterezi, will be called up and be part of that tandem with the AHL.
They got him from the Devils.
Yeah, they signed him as a free agent. So you'll expect him to be as the tandem with Dominic DiVincentis. But yeah, it's a huge opportunity. Thomas Milic, really great kid, BC product. Obviously passed over in the draft. The Jets took him 2023 5th rounder. Mm-hmm. So really big.
Passed over the first time he was drafted.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Yeah. The draft.
Just want to make sure that the audience understands what you're mentioning.
Sure. You're right. I did leave out the yesterday, so that was problematic.
No,
it was true. I mean, it's funny. In my original, where I took it from in my note, I had the because I wrote it, but the problem is I ran out of characters, so I just dropped the, and then of course you caught me on that one. So,
thank you.
Anyways, if folks are wondering, go to Drew's Twitter. You can figure out what we're referencing. But the fact of the matter is that I just think that Thomas Milic, like someone was asking me today, like, what would you describe him as? And it's ironic, actually.
Dave's like a goaltender, a pro hockey goaltender.
But it's funny because he's actually very similar to Eric Comrie, so much so that we just finished our media availabilities today. We spoke to Adam Lowry, no surprise, and Josh Morrissey, and we're walking out, and the two goaltenders are usually their stalls are right by the exit where we leave. And the first one is usually Connor Hellebuyck. Second one is Eric Comrie. And in this instance, it was, it's Milic. It says Milic on the name part. And there's a player sitting there like this, and he's got his hands down. He's going like this. And I go, hey, Thomas. And he looks up and it's Eric. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, oh, well, you guys are very similar. Like they look very similar in terms of
slightly undersized goaltenders.
Yeah, it's true.
Not the traditional, now big body goaltender.
No, they're not. But what I was going to say though, in terms of his style, is that he's a battler and he's athletic and he can get across and he's sound. So I think that the Jets fans are going to be excited to watch him. And it's a huge opportunity, a huge test for Thomas Milic. He's, like I said, a third-year pro. Things didn't go well for the team collectively last year. So, but he went down. He was in Norfolk. Was really instrumental in their playoff run. So you've got a guy who is ready, I think, as a third-year pro to kind of get to seize the opportunity, whether he ends up playing as all 3 of those back-to-backs or 2 of them or not, whatever it is. I just think that you're going to get a guy who is excited for this opportunity and ready for it.
And I would expect him to play more than just the back-to-backs. Like, I don't think he's going to play. I don't think this is going to be a split. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think when you consider how many games the team has in December, right? Like the 4 games in 7 days, those types of situations, right, Drew?
Yeah.
So if we're looking at just the next month, and again, the reason why I'm looking at the month is because that would be the minimum Hellebuyck would be out, which is 16 games.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 4 of those starts, maybe something like that. 4 or 5 of those starts.
I think that, if he proves to be serviceable, I think the team will run with him. I don't think that there is obviously this is Eric Comrie. They're going to be most reliant on him, but Thomas Milic to the same extent, if he's able to, show himself as being ready for the moment, I don't think that they'll hesitate giving him a few extra games beyond what we expect to be the bare minimum, Dave.
Well, and just wanted to say too, Dave talked a lot about Milic because he obviously watches him more than Drew and I do, but this is a guy that's won at the junior level. right? World Juniors and in the WHL, right?
Yep.
Like really good goalie. And you know, he's and what a game to come off of to be called up, right? Like stopped 28 of 29 shots, and I don't know how many of those were in the overtime.
13. Oh no, 13 in the third period.
Right,
where the Moose got 0 shots on goal.
It was a weird game. Like the Moose weren't great to start. Like the Moose had again, I don't want to turn this into a Manuk Moose minute, but they started off every period. The first and second, they were very good. They had like a 10-1 shot edge after one to start the first. Then they had a 7-1 shot edge to start the second. It was the third period where you saw that the Chicago took things over a little bit more. So that was kind of the difference.
Yeah, and then the Moose were able to. Thomas Milic was being relied on heavily by the Moose to make sure that they were, keeping them in the game. When the players themselves couldn't do it, he was the backbone for the Moose success in last night's game, which of course the Jets hope will translate now for his first time at the NHL level. Eric Comrie will be the starting goaltender, of course, tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. The Carolina Hurricanes are in town. Nikolaj Ehlers making his return to Winnipeg, the one and only time he'll play here, barring a Stanley Cup final between the two teams a little bit later on this season. It'll be interesting, of course. The Jets, this is a completely different wrinkle that they're unexpected and won't know necessarily how to deal with until they get on the ice tonight. And that's going to be something worth looking forward to when the game starts at 7 o'clock later on tonight. And then, of course, the Illegal Curve post-game show after that we can look forward to as well. Dave, can I ask you to send us the break with clicking the button on your screen, or is that something that...
No, I'm happy to send the break. I didn't realize you were going to give me the authority.
I'm going to give you the power. I'm just, trying to work through. I know it was a couple seconds late, so I'm just trying to work through a couple things here. And
we already agreed that your fine's going to be $1,000.
That's very reasonable. As long as you don't ask me to actually pay for the fine, then there won't be any issues whatsoever. But when you'll
do it, you'll do that, and I'll just press the button.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
When we come back here on the special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, we're going to talk Adam Lowry. We're going to talk Brad Lambert. We're going to talk Nikolaj Ehlers. There's plenty.
Nikolaj Ehlers just finished talking, I should say, and we'll have that up on our YouTube channel. Maybe we can even play that.
There you go. We got lots to come still. This special Friday afternoon, 12 noon edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, live on location and the second floor food court at Cityplace. Dave, do your magic, my friend.
I want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. Cityplace is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make Cityplace your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit Cityplace at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre.
Boys, I've made an important life decision, and I need your support.
Oh, boy.
I've decided to get a grill.
You mean a barbecue grill for cooking? Like, that's not an important life decision, Ezzy.
No. A grill for my teeth.
A grill for your teeth? Do I even want to know why you're doing this?
It's simple, really. Every time I go to Holt Dental, I get treated so very well by Dr. John and his team that I need to keep finding additional reasons to go back. I rely on Holt Dental for all of my dental needs, and they do it all, from regular cleanings to cosmetic dentistry. Plus, they have free parking at their front door, and you know how much I love my convenient parking.
For all your dental needs, Illegal Curve recommends Holt Dental, conveniently located on Taylor Avenue near Grant Park Mall. For more information, visit them online at holtdental.ca.
Guys, big news. You know how I'm always misplacing my cool stuff? Well, Big Daddy has a new hobby, labeling.
Labeling is your new hobby.
You got it. Ever since I discovered Label Daddy's washable labels, I just can't stop labeling. I'm labeling water bottles, hockey sticks, cereal boxes, roast chickens, team jerseys. Everything deserves a label.
I can think of a label or two for you.
Best part is that Label Daddy is the only label company officially licensed by the NHL. So my labels are personalized and can have the Jets logo on them. Just search NHL on the Label Daddy website.
For almost 2 decades, Label Daddy has been helping people to not lose their stuff. It's the most affordable insurance policy around.
For customized, washable, peel and stick labels with no ironing or sewing required, visit labeldaddy.com and search NHL for the label pack belonging to your favorite team.
For over 40 years, Rumour's Restaurant and Comedy Club has been Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy. Renowned in the comedy world as a must-play venue, Rumour's has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers, wedding socials, and everything in between, Rumour's is your destination for the best live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For information on upcoming shows, Rumour's incredible promotions, and to purchase show tickets, visit rumourscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to this Friday afternoon special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Live on location here, second floor, Cityplace. Love being here for our monthly visits. After the game tonight, we remind everybody the Illegal Curve post-game show will break down everything to do with the Jets and the Carolina Hurricanes. And then tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., it's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, all of which can be streamed on our YouTube channel, as well as all of our social media platforms. Just scan the QR code that's over here on this poster right over here. That'll get you to the channel. That'll get you everything to do with Illegal Curve Hockey. This is a funny one coming out of Nikolaj Ehlers' scrum with the assembled media. Who is Nikolaj Ehlers most excited to face tonight? Neil Pionk probably is the answer. Pionk texted me the other night and asked me if I want my first fight in a Hurricanes jersey, which is pretty funny from Neil Pionk and Nikolaj Ehlers. Actually, a real fun article by our buddy Mike McIntyre in today's Winnipeg Free Press, talking about sort of going around the Jets dressing room and talking about what it's like to face a former teammate. And obviously, Nikolaj Ehlers left here on good terms. You know, he left here with no hard feelings from anybody, from what we can tell within the organization, and certainly his teammates. So it'll be a bit of a welcome home. I expect a nice ovation and a nice sort of tribute video during that first TV timeout in tonight's contest. And it'll be a fun atmosphere, I think. And then, of course, the Connor Hellebuyck news for anybody just joining us here tonight. Connor Hellebuyck out for the next 4 to 6 weeks. He's going to undergo arthroscopic knee surgery to fix an ailment he's got in his knee. So the Jets will be without their all-world goaltender for the next 4 to 6 weeks. But as he sort of focusing on Ehlers' return tonight to the Jets lineup, to Winnipeg.
Yeah,
in the
people were very
Hurricanes
excited
lineup.
when they heard you say that.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, Drew, you mentioned the tribute video, and he is going to get an absolutely huge ovation,
I would
right?
think
Because
so.
as you said, Nikolaj Ehlers was liked by all of his teammates, similar to Eric Comrie, right? Like, nobody can be necessarily as popular as Eric Comrie because it's just the magnetic personality that he has. But Nick Ehlers spent a long time, almost 700 games in a Winnipeg Jets uniform. So I'm excited. I'm going to be in the crowd. They've ordered more beer for tonight for me.
That's good.
So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I'm excited for the ovation because it is going to be huge. And, you know, his importance really to this club can't be understated, right? He spent 10 years here, drafted first round. We were there.
Philadelphia.
We were all there in Philly, right?
Yeah.
So shout out to the city of brotherly love. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. And, you know, for all the talk about, you know, Ehlers taking a while to score his first goal, because I think it happened in game 10 or game 11, something like that. But if you actually look at, he's fourth on the team behind Jackson Blake. Ehlers has got 4 goals, 13 points in 20 games, but he's actually he's got a point in 12 of the last 15 Hurricanes games.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, like, you know, people have been saying, you know, Ehlers isn't having that great of a year. Like, Logan Stanley's got only 1 less goal than Nick Ehlers, everything like that, right?
Yeah.
But his importance to the Hurricanes has already been felt, right? Obviously, this team is led by Sebastian Aho, along with Seth Jarvis, others, Andrei Svechnikov, who's off to a bit of a slow start. But, you know, a guy, too, that I wanted to mention, had an opportunity to watch him a little bit. I always like to get a plug in for the University of North Dakota. You guys are knowing where I'm going with this. Jackson Blake.
Yeah.
He scored 2 goals in his last game. He was just an absolute superhero for the UND. I think he had 60 points in his second year with UND. Son of Jason Blake, right? Former New York Islander Jason Blake. You guys remember him? He was a really good player. So Jackson Blake's another guy that you have to look out for. He's been on a tear lately. This Hurricanes team, as Drew mentioned earlier, not only are they the first place team in the Eastern Conference right now, guys, this team picked up Nikolaj Ehlers because this is a team that wants the Stanley Cup, right? Like, make no mistake about it. They believe that Nick Ehlers was one of those missing pieces for them, right? And, they've got some injuries similar to what the Jets are doing for Jacob Slavin. He's only played 2 games this year. He's out right now. Jalen Chatfield, who's a regular top 6 defenseman for the Hurricanes. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, he's out of the lineup as well. So I'm not saying that the Hurricanes are, easy pickings here or anything like that. I'm just saying they're going through some injuries.
Not if you look at their forwards, they're not.
No,
they're a regular season juggernaut.
Yes.
I mean, they have been for the last, 5 years?
At least, if not longer.
They win 2 playoff rounds, and then unfortunately that's the hurdle they haven't been able to overcome. That's been their story, with Rod Brind'Amour as their head coach, is that they've been able to get very close to the top of the mountain, but not quite fully there. And they're demonstrating the same thing so far this year. Of course, the playoffs, time will tell on that front. We're months away from that, but I'm not making any jokes with the Winnipeg Police Service walking by. I'm just, hey guys. But as expected, the Hurricanes are certainly one of the best teams in the NHL. I don't think it would be a surprise to anybody whatsoever if they're a President's Trophy winning Carolina Hurricanes team this year. The question for them, very similar to the question for the Winnipeg Jets, is what happens come playoff time? Can they get over that hurdle? Can they get that playoff caliber goaltending that they haven't necessarily been able to get? Can they get that key goal when they're able to get it? They haven't been able to get it so far. That's what sort of the story of the Carolina Hurricanes is.
Yeah, and obviously folks here want to focus on Nikolaj Ehlers. And look, there'll be a lot of Ehlers in Carolina talk. And Adam Lowry had a pretty good line because they went out for dinner with him. And someone asked, I think Mike asked, who picked up the bill? And Adam said, Nicky's too cheap. I did. But then he joked, said, no, I'm the host. I had to do it. But Ehlers, of course, will be hosting the Jets. What is it, next week, right? So he'll be able to reciprocate. But the interesting thing for me, and I want to talk a little more about Ehlers, but about Carolina specifically, given how good they are and how good their 5-on-5 is their special teams haven't been good. They're the 31st ranked power play in the NHL. Right. I was looking this up for the pregame report. So the 31st ranked power play and the 19th ranked PK. So it's interesting that if it becomes a bit more special teams of a game, that might play into the Jets' favor, because the Jets, after slowing down in that realm, of course, they had a top 3 power play, top 3 PK. The power play slipped all the way down to 13th. Well, guess what? Jets power play, because they've been finding success lately, they're back up to 6 overall. Guess where the PK is? 6 overall. So, I mean, that's pretty darn good when your special teams are doing that, because it is in a way to, again, win games and help you secure points. So we've talked about how important it is. And I just thought it was very...
To your point, because the Hurricanes are a 5-on-5 juggernaut.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know. That's what I'm saying.
They have the second best expected goals differential in the league, right?
Right.
Colorado's the only team.
Colorado's on another level.
Yeah, right, Colorado. How have they only lost 1 regulation game?
Well, have you seen McCarr and McKinnon?
Well,
I know, but I mean, they're basically the Avalanche are doing what the Jets did last year.
But Eddie, the only thing that's bizarre, given what Drew just said and what you just said, is the fact that I am a little surprised they have as many overtime losses as they do, given how talented that group is.
You think McCarr, McKinnon, when those are your first 2 choices over the boards come overtime, you should win each overtime period within the first minute.
You would think so, but
again, they could go 2 versus 3 and still probably win. No, but to Dave's point, and we should also mention, Drew mentioned goaltending earlier. Freddie Anderson played the last game against Minnesota, so I don't know if it's been confirmed. Dave, you were there, but I believe it's going to be Kochetkov in net, who's been just absolutely lights out this year. I think he's only played 6 or 7 games. Freddie Anderson's played more games, but we do believe it's going to be Comrie versus Kochetkov.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we have seen Kochetkov obviously score a goal in this building when he was with the Chicago Wolves against the Manitoba Moose. So
I don't know how many of us have seen that, but we know you have there.
Well, hopefully some folks who follow us on social media have, Drew. But you're like I guess what it comes down to, and I don't know, because I was literally just trying to finish up all the media availability before I even got a chance to.
And I'm not sorry. I just wanted to mention here quickly, Dave. I'm not trying to scare Jets fans or anything. Kochetkov in 5 games is 4-0 with a .926 save percentage.
Is that good?
And a 1.7 goals against. So I'm just saying, Freddie Anderson's numbers, I'm not going to necessarily, I mean, why don't I just mention them? 883 save percentage, 3.07 goals against. So clearly, Kochetkov's been the better goaltender for Carolina this year. Just wanted to get some numbers in there for some context.
Yeah, and
Brandon Bussey is also up with them as well. He's not a household name when it comes to goaltending, but they are currently carrying those 3 goaltenders, the Hurricanes.
And he hasn't played in a couple weeks. That's why
Toronto on
so
November the 9th.
I think should get the start.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder why you have a third goaltender up. I mean, obviously, the obvious reasons are apparent, but that's where it comes from. That's the goaltending perspective. I mean, Freddie Anderson has certainly been the weaker of them, and that's where the issues have always been for Carolina. Is similar almost to Edmonton in that regard. Can you get the goaltending come playoff time? And there's always been injury issues with both Kochetkov and Freddie Anderson. Neither here nor there with the Carolina Hurricanes, but they are. We've seen this Hurricanes team before. We know what they are. They're very similar. They're Corsi darlings. They're puck possession. They're stellar at puck possession.
They shoot a lot.
Yeah,
93 shot attempts versus Minnesota.
Well, that's a big number. I mean, that means you got the puck on your stick a whole heck of a lot, is what the Hurricanes do. So that's why, for the Winnipeg Jets' perspective, again, it's back to what we talked about earlier at the outset of the show. If those shots, if they're coming from the slot, you're going to be in trouble tonight.
Yeah.
You have to make that to be the outside of everything. Luke Shen is still going to be in the lineup according to the game day skate. Yep. Again, the Hurricanes are not a big physical team. They're more of a speed team.
They are the definition of a speed skating team, right? And we've seen the Jets struggle against teams like Anaheim. San Jose's got a lot of speed right on that road trip. We talked about it. So Drew's point is very well taken, that the key to this, I think, over the next month to 6 weeks is going to be, how well are the Jets able to play defensively and stick to that stifling style game after game? Because
and you saw signs of it against Columbus. I mean, now it's hard to take much out of that Columbus game because of, the quote unquote scheduled loss. I mean, for the Blue Jackets' perspective, they play an overtime or a shootout game on the Monday night. You travel from Columbus to Winnipeg, which is not a 1 hour flight.
Didn't they get in at like 3 a.m. or something?
So that's so you could see that.
No, I think it was 1:30. According to our boy Jody Shelley, it was 1:30.
It's impossible. The math doesn't match.
Dave's like, I was on the tarmac and I saw the
Winnipeg time. It was 2:30 their time.
I saw the plane land at 1:32.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. I mean, I know you gain an hour, but that's
telling you.
Okay, fine. I agree.
First-hand knowledge from someone who was probably on the plane. But
That's true. But if
you want to argue it, you can.
I'm not arguing it too.
You have a source that was on the Hurricanes plane, Dave?
No, the Blue Jackets plane.
Sorry, Blue Jackets.
Pride of.
Jody. That's right. Yeah.
In any event, the Jets did look better. They did tilt the ice for the most part against the Blue Jackets. Especially as that game went on.
Thompson, Manitoba. I knew it. I was trying to remember. I knew it was somewhere up north.
Yeah. That's what the Jets need to, especially when you have now a different goaltender. You have a different structure to your team. You need to make sure that the puck is 200 feet away from your net as much as possible.
Right.
And that's not something the Jets have been great at this year.
No.
We know where they are at 5-on-5. We know where they are at possession-wise.
Surprised Drew's not going to make a paramedic joke with those 3 paramedic
I'm not making any
safety
jokes.
officers.
I'm not
safety
funny.
officers.
Yeah. Shout out to the safety officers who are doing a very important service for our community.
There you go. That's a good job there, Ezzy. But my point is, Dave, as the Jets need to find a way to buckle down. They need to find a way to improve their 5-on-5 play to be successful in the next.
They need to impose their game on the opposition. They can't allow the opponent to dictate what kind of game is going to be played tonight at Canada Life Center. So I think what it comes down to is you need to have a maturity. I mean, this is a team that wants to be talked about as a Stanley Cup, contender.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ezzy. And so if you want to be taken seriously in that capacity, well, then you need to show that you can play that style. And it's not one game against Columbus and then the structure breaks down, because the structure should be the same regardless of who's in net.
Right.
So the structure is, the structure, we all saw it. The team looked better. The only other change to the lineup we should mention is Cole Koepke gets in
Pearson
for
out.
Tanner Pearson, which is funny because we all talked about how we thought Tanner Pearson played one of his better games in the last one. But
this is the first time Pearson will be a healthy scratch this year.
Yes, I think. Yeah. I think so. I think you're right.
He's played all 19 games. Right?
So he may have missed a couple games due to injury.
Right, but as he's saying,
healthy. Yes, exactly.
So I think it's and we know that Scott O'Neill wanted to get Cole Koepke in. He likes him with Morgan Barron. He likes him on the PK. So there's reasons to make that change. But ultimately, again, like I said, you're a Jets team that's feeling better about your game. You've got 2 wins in a row. You got to start putting them together because, quite frankly, the other thing we're not really talking about, it's all well and good about, you're in third in the Central. Colorado is light years ahead of everybody. I don't think, it's kind of similar to what Winnipeg did with the 15-1 start. So I think Colorado is just like, don't even bother. They've got the afterburners on. They're gone. Even Dallas is continuing to win every single game. So
yeah, they're 7 points up on the Jets, I think?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So again, it's not insurmountable.
5.
Yeah,
Okay. And the Jets have 2 in hand.
Sure, but I'm just saying that the Dallas Stars are winning is what I'm saying.
Yes, they are.
So the Colorado Avalanche are lights out. Dallas is winning, but remember,
winning.
Other than Utah, who's hit a bit of a slide.
That was Charlie Sheen. That was my Charlie Sheen.
I got it. I was trying not to get derailed. We don't have that much time, Ezzy. We've already flown through about 48
How have we not
minutes
talked about Brad Lambert yet?
We'll talk about it tomorrow morning on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
There's
at
too
9
much
a.m.
to talk about, boys. This is the best day ever.
Your point, though, Dave, I'm sure is what you're going to say is that right now the Jets are third in the Central Division.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Wild are out of a playoff spot, but they have the same number of points as the Winnipeg Jets.
It's about exactly what I'm saying. So you're looking at, and then again, the only team that's faltered of late is Utah. I believe they have 3 straight losses, although yesterday might have been an overtime loss, I think.
Yeah, they're 2-5-3 in their last 10.
So they've hit a bit of a slide after actually they had that excellent game against the Winnipeg Jets. But ultimately, the Central is just, and the West right now, even Calgary's not like crazy back. Like again,
Calgary's out of it.
I'm not saying otherwise, but I'm saying
I would agree. From coming from the guy who picked the Flames to make the playoffs, Dave,
they're
done.
Okay, fine. But my point I'm making
let me
is
ask
that
you
you're
this
not
question.
talking about a
Stick a fork in them, Dave.
Yeah.
19 games between now and the end of 2025.
Sure.
What's an acceptable record for the Winnipeg Jets over the next 19 games?
18-1
without Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, what keeps them where
12
they
and
need
7,
to be?
13-6. You got to be around there.
So I mean, you're still winning. That means you're still winning
2 out of
your games.
Yeah, you're winning 2 out of every 3.
Even
you have
without
to.
Connor Hellebuyck in your net.
Well, I mean, again, if you're look, I'm not going to. He obviously is like an eraser. He erases I know that we call Luke Shen the human eraser, but but the fact of the matter is that Connor Hellebuyck erases the mistakes that your team makes.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we've all watched Comrie. We think Comrie is capable of standing in. Now it's going to be about the number of games, because so far in the 5 games he's played, you're not even. I know he got lit up for 5 goals against in the 1 game, but you're not looking at a guy who has played poorly. You're not looking at Garrett Comrie and you're like, wow, that goal was a stinker. That goal was a stinker. So he has played well. He's bailed them out. Remember, even in the game against Columbus, which they were winning 4-2, he had to make a bunch of saves in order to preserve that lead, which they eventually, with the Stanzilla howitzer, made 5-2. But ultimately, this is a game that was, Eric Comrie still had to play well. So I'm just saying that I'm not suggesting that Eric Comrie is Connor Hellebuyck. He's not, as he went on earlier in the show. But ultimately, this is a guy who is going to have to stand in, and a team that, if you're going to be serious about being, you just can't falter. You can't afford. I mean, again, do I think they can make the playoffs still if they go 10-9? Sure. I just think that you want to make sure you're not having to rush Connor Hellebuyck back. You're not having to overtax him as you run into the playoffs. You want to make sure you keep yourself in the hunt. Again, we've said it before the season began. You don't have to win the President's Trophy this year. You did a lot of good things last year. You put a lot of structure in your game. Now what you have to do is make sure that structure is working. And then when the season ends, you're in the playoff mix, and you can just hopefully use that against whoever you're playing.
13-6 to me strikes me as a pretty.
That's a lofty number.
That's a lofty number.
I'm not saying otherwise.
I mean, to me, the 13-6. If the Jets can go 13-6, they're going to start doing cartwheels through CityPlace here without Connor Hellebuyck in their line.
For the record, you said what was a reasonable number. You didn't say what is the number I anticipate that they're going to go.
Well, but I mean, that's
they're kind of hand in hand, but
anyway. that's splitting hairs pretty.
I like to thread the needle in ambiguity.
Well, boys, look, the Jets know Eric Comrie can lead them to success, right? We know, Eric Comrie had a great year last year, a very underrated year, I thought. Considering that Connor Hellebuyck put together the Hart Trophy Vezina season, I think Comrie, the way he played was really good. I mean, his numbers were good. His numbers have been good this year. And it's to Dave's point, the difference is Eric Comrie has never played the majority of games at the NHL level. Right. So this is unfamiliar territory for him. But back to your point, though, this means that the Jets have to make sure that their defensive play is vacuum sealed tight. Right. And that's the thing. And the easier part of the schedule is over, right? Like you've got Carolina twice in the next week, right? Like you've got tough games coming up. You've got a tough schedule coming up.
A Washington Capitals team that's been
demolishing.
Minnesota's been playing well, right? Like on Sunday, you got Minnesota coming in. So this isn't a short period of time. Like obviously it is when you consider it's 4 to 6 weeks out of a year.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking about 16 to 22 games here.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a quarter of the season. You're now going to be without Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
So again, what we're saying is Comrie's got to step up, but the Jets have to step up. And obviously, you help hope that the full health continues, right? Because it's only Hayden Fleury now. There's only one guy that's out of the lineup right now, aside from Hellebuyck, right? And so it's kind of, it's unfortunate, Dave, that, this injury, this knee surgery is coming up now, considering that the Jets were getting back to full health. But there's no doubt that, players are going to have to step up. I think Drew makes a good point. I think they are going to have to change a little bit of the style that they play, a little bit of this. They're going to have to maybe tweak the system that they play to compensate for the fact that they don't have the best goalie on the planet in net now.
Well, and sorry, I just want to quickly do an update and a health update, because as you mentioned, Hayden Fleury, who skated in the morning skate on Tuesday in a non-contact and then didn't skate at practice Wednesday. The Jets were obviously off the ice Thursday, and then he wasn't on the ice today. So head coach,
he's in concussion protocol.
Yeah, he's in protocol, but he was skating.
Right.
So my point is that
he's not skating anymore.
Right. Well, yeah. So anyway, so my point is that Scott Arniel was asked about it today, and he essentially said he's had a bit of a setback.
Right.
Didn't make it sound like it was super significant, but just said he's not on the ice right now.
I mean, and that's the steps. When you have a concussion, is you come out, you try, with in a non-contact, and then you see how you feel the next day. And clearly, he didn't feel great the next day. And it's all part. It's not a linear progression, especially when you're dealing with something like head injuries. In that, it's not unusual for a player to not feel great necessarily the next day. So that's why they sort of stop everything and go back to square one, as it pertains to the concussion protocol.
Right. And that's why it's so unfortunate. If Hellebuyck being injured would be unfortunate regardless, but just because the Jets are finally back to full health, it's just, but
every team's got, have you ever seen a year that's got this many injuries for some of these teams around the league?
Did you guys see what happened to Jack Hughes?
What about Lester Ryan in Florida?
Yeah, so far we've had a knife injury at a team dinner.
Yeah,
we've had a barbecue explosion, some sort of barbecue malfunction, mishap.
Well, I said that's why the reason I texted you guys that, because now me burning my hands on a pot of boiling hot water doesn't look so bad.
We never knew you were a trendsetter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only difference between those guys and you is they're professional athletes.
Yes.
And
they make millions, whereas I make hundreds.
And you fail to boil water properly. I mean, that's the only difference I can see between the three of you. But I mean, it's this is wild. I mean, we are sort of the Jets aren't immune to it. So many other teams have even suffered, normal injuries. It's not like the Jets injuries have been abnormal, like some of these knife-related incidents at a team dinner. Can you imagine getting injured at the team dinner?
No. Especially like when the Devils are playing so well.
Right.
And Jack Hughes is a point per game right now.
Yeah.
And it's just bizarre. The Lester Ryan and barbecue incident.
Can you imagine Paul Maurice having to break that news?
I had to read it a couple times, and I was like, "Is this real? Like, is this from The Onion? Like, what's going on here?" But yeah, there's been some weird injuries around the league for sure. And just to bring it back to the Jets, guys, like the Jets are talking about adversity, right? Like Drew mentioned a couple weeks back, like the losing streak on the road was probably the most adversity this team has faced in the last couple of years.
Absolutely,
now you're out with your number one goalie. It's just a situation the Jets haven't been in since Hellebuyck established himself as a full-time NHL goaltender, right?
10 years ago.
Talk about adversity. This is adversity for a team right now that's like not like last year where they were in first place the whole year. Now they're let's be honest, like they're competing for a wild card spot at this point.
And there's something to be said, for the argument about iron sharpening iron. I mean, I don't think the Jets are going to be happy about this turn of events. Of course, they're not. They'd much rather have Hellebuyck than not have him. Thanks, Captain Obvious. But again, does this allow them to maybe sharpen their focus a little bit, a focus that has been a little bit wandering, let's say, at times so far this season?
And I'm sure that's what the message is from Scott Arniel, Drew.
Sure. You can't hang your head because there's 19 games. It's not like this is a one-game thing where you can allow yourself to be a little bit sad for one game and you punt on one game and then he's back to normal. This is going to be a minimum of 19 or so games that you're going to be without him, give or take a game or two, of course. But I mean, it's not an insignificant period of time. It's a quarter of your season, as one of you just said earlier.
And I think that, as you said, this is about testing yourselves. And ultimately, you have to be able to win, not because Connor Hellebuyck's in net. Now, we've said for years that you don't apologize for having the best goaltender in the NHL in your crease and making saves that are ridiculous. But at the end of the day, like, it's a team game. You have to be able to play that structure. That's what the team has harped for years. So sure, Hellebuyck has erased, especially this year, where they were missing so many key guys, and without the Dylan Sandbergs, without the Adam Lowrys, without Morgan Barron, how this team looked very different defensively. Now they're healthy. They've got Cole Koepke back in the lineup, so their forward group is completely up to snuff and ready to go.
Yeah, Scott Arniel can choose. He has his options. He can choose who he wants to choose to deploy on any given night.
So I'm just saying that it'll be very interesting to see how they deal with this adversity and whether they're able to harness it and use it to kind of, continue to. I mean, it's funny. It's almost like we run into the part of the season where we're like, oh, game 19, like there's still like so many games to go. Well, the Jets aren't going to have that fix. They'll be able to say, look, this is what we were able to do in the first 19 games of the season. We kept ourselves into the playoff mix. Now for the next 19 games, we have to do something similar. And we don't know. I mean, he could be back in 4 weeks, but he could also not be back for 6 weeks. So that's why you have to take it with a grain of salt and figure it out. And as cliche as it says, focus on tonight's game. You can't worry about Sunday's game against Minnesota. It's really just Nikolaj Ehlers and the Carolina Hurricanes. And speaking of Nikolaj Ehlers, we will have his media availability from a little while ago on our YouTube channel when we're done the show.
There you go. Question number one for the Winnipeg Jets. Hurdle number one for the team to overcome without Connor Hellebuyck is later on tonight in about 6 hours' time. Puck drop between the Winnipeg Jets and the Carolina Hurricanes here in downtown Winnipeg. If you're looking for a place before the game, of course, we always encourage you to hang out here. Stop by any of the great vendors here at Cityplace. We're in the second floor food court, but there's great options all throughout the mall. So we encourage everybody to hang out here. Make this your destination. Make this your stop on your way to the arena for tonight's contest. We say a big thank you to everybody for joining us live on location here. Special lunch hour broadcast here at Cityplace. We always enjoy doing it. Our next one, as he leaned forward, is Thursday, December 11th.
As he only leans back.
I know, but he's going to lean forward. He's going to lean forward on this one, or we're going to put everything he owns in a box to the left if we have to. The Boston Bruins on December 11th will be in town. I believe that's who our next action here live.
What about Strathclair, Manitoba's Morgan Geekie?
It's on fire.
Hey, who mentioned that the other day? 14 goals?
Yeah. It up.
And he almost had
second in the league right now.
As he almost had a hat trick. Like he had a great shot. So I mean, he's on pace for 50. So
crazy.
They breed him, made in Manitoba, as he made in Manitoba.
There you go. Thanks to everybody. Big thanks to all of our sponsors. Of course, big thanks to our friends here at Cityplace for having us down. Producer Tim is the one who is the key to this operation. If it weren't for him, we'd all be struggling, and who knows if this show would ever
were
get
struggling.
And I got to mention too, Tim, freshly coiffed, like loving the nice short hair. It's looking tip top, my man.
Hey, producer Tim looking his best.
Actually, I'll mention that later.
Okay, Dave's going to mention something later. We got the post-game show later on tonight, right around 9:40 p.m. or so, give or take. Dave Minuk and yours truly will bring you all the latest on the Jets and the Carolina Hurricanes.
I'll be partying with Nick Ehlers.
Yeah, you're going to be partying. You're going to be having a couple beverages. And then, of course, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Murata Tesh of The Athletic and Jesse Pierce, who covers the Wild. They're going to join us as well. Thanks to everybody for that. The Illegal Curve YouTube channel, illegalcurve.com, is your number one resource for all the latest on the Winnipeg Jets. We look forward to seeing everybody later on for the post-game show. For Dave Minuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, for producer Tim, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. This has been a special edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show live on location at Cityplace.